Welcome to Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast, your weekly dose of many discussions and opinions, a show where we get comfortable being uncomfortable. And remember, no topic is off limits. Now let's talk about it. Just start. And I was like, okay, fine. So I'll do it. No problem. But here we are. All right. So welcome back, guys, to another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. I am your host, Miss D. And today we have I have to laugh before I cry. This is the type of day I'm having. We have an amazing guest. Okay, my listeners know before I started this platform, I had like a personal page, right? Like a private personal page where my kid is like all over it. And so this person who is here with us today, I've been following her ever since then. Besides the fact that I've like met you in person and but I want to be able to shine light on the fact that it's more than just, oh, I actually know her. Like, excuse my language, I actually fuck with what she has to service here. So, like, I have to be able to say that. I have to be able to notate that the person we have here today is truly about community and the soul and so much more. And I am so grateful to have you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Melanie Santos here on the show today. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you. That was such a beautiful and heartfelt intro because we do know each other in person. We ended up being like at a party together, and I'm like, we have so many people in common. Like,
Yeah.
can we just be friends?
Yeah.
And it was history ever since.
Yes. We actually happen to it's so funny because I have seen you through the mutual friends. And when I'm talking about events, I'm talking about these people just celebrated like 5 years wedding anniversary and y'all was at the wedding, at baby showers. Like I
Yeah.
remember when Ava was in your belly. Oh my God.
Oh my
Like
god.
like I've seen it and it's like you just know, oh, like I've seen this person, I've seen this person. It clicks. It's like, no, wait, I follow her. Like I know who she is. And like everything just falls into place, right? And so this has definitely been a long time coming for me, right? I have a show here, everybody knows, where we get comfortable being uncomfortable and no topic is ever off limits, right? But there's a bigger picture here, right? They always say, like with podcasts, like you have to have a niche and just one thing to talk about. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like I could talk about whatever I want, right? Anything that I feel is relevant to my life and who knows to how many others. You just never know who it's going to touch. Other people's stories can really be that impactful. And so this is part of the reason why you're here too. Besides all the good stuff about the community and your brands and all that other stuff. But we are going to dive right in and kick off this episode with I always kick off every episode. Here is Raw Mess of the Week. And so we get a little messy here sometimes. Okay.
Ready. I'm
All
ready.
right. Okay. But this is actually something that I had seen, and I always reference back to like television, right? Because I find it that in TV, whether it's, fiction or not, there's always some form of a story behind it that at some point somebody went through, right? It's relatable of some sort, or it's a topic that really gets to you, right? There is this show going on that I'm like such a fan of and I've been watching it. And one of the things that one of the episodes really uplifted was the concept of what is meant to be or how it's meant to be and forgiveness, right?
Mm.
So MTV has this show now about people hiding their partners in the relationship, right? They think they're being hidden. And in this one story, this gentleman is like, she's hiding me. I know she's hiding me. I don't know her friends. We don't go out on public dates, this, that, and the third. And so there's a reason apparently why she was hiding him. It gets a little messy because this is where I want to shine light on the mess. She apparently the reason why she hides him is because she doesn't want anyone to know that they're together. Because the reason why she reached out to him in the first place was to get revenge for her ex-boyfriend who cheated on her with
Oh
this
my
guy's
gosh.
ex-girlfriend. Here's the thing. When the shit hits the fan and she comes out and admits it finally, and she's crying hysterical, she says, I did not expect to fall in love with you. I did not expect to get to know you and for this relationship to like last this long. And for a second, in all his anger, he's like, you lied, the intention, how dare you, the
Right.
revenge, like that was bad intention, all that. One of the hosts says, okay, we established all of this, right? We checked all of this off. She knows what she did wrong. She just admitted it to you, right? It's about the principle, the lie, the deceit, and all that. He asked him, now that this is all out there, now that you guys can talk about this, can you work through this? Can you
Mhm.
forgive? And can you move forward?
Mhm.
And the other host, and it made me think, I said to myself, well, she would have never reached out to him and hence fall in love with him had the cheating never happened, right?
Mhm.
She actually saw it as, I didn't expect to fall in love with you, but I did. I love you. I fell in love with you, and I've been scared to lose you if I tell you the truth. And so I want to bring this to the table for discussion, right? Because forgiveness
Mhm.
is something that's very big to me on this platform. And also how sometimes we have to just kind of like read and see all the facts of a situation,
Right.
right? Not to push away what our principles are, but sometimes there are some rare situations. And so I wanted your little your insight on this and a little bit of thought on this because I saw some commentary on it and it was like, "Oh, guys, you have to watch the whole episode to understand." Because I
Mhm.
kind of just really wanted to sit neutral to this. So give me a little bit of your thoughts on this.
As you were talking, so I think about relationships a little bit differently, hence,
Yeah.
being what I do.
Yes.
Um, and so when I'm hearing about this, I just hear like she's acting out of fear, acting out of ego, which like ego is super important in, the spiritual community. I think it's really misunderstood still. People think about
Mhm.
ego and they're like, "Oh, you need to like suppress your ego." And it's just like, "No, you need to be in harmony with your shit.
Mm.
Otherwise, things like this will happen, right? You need to really
Mhm.
be in communion with your ego. Otherwise, you're going to go and do ego-filled things or your ego is constantly going to be crawling up, every alley in your life trying to take a hold of it when you don't have a hold on yourself." So she
Right.
definitely acted out of ego. Poor guy was bamboozled. Now they're in this like love triangle. What happened to the other guy that she was gonna that she was getting revenge on?
I mean, the ex-girlfriend and the ex-boyfriend totally disappeared. There was no
Oh
point to that,
wow.
right? Because
There was no point. Oh gosh.
no.
So when we talk about like forgiveness, for one, I want to say like the reason why I think about relationships differently is because I see relationships as being assignments. So everybody I think comes together to learn a lesson. Unfortunately, the dude that was bamboozled and even the woman who was doing the bamboozling had a lesson to learn here. And yes, I mean,
Mhm.
we can talk about like what happened and how it ended. Did they end up together or is that like unfinished? Do
Yes,
we
they
know?
decided to work through it
They decided to
together.
work through it. Okay, so they have like much learning to do still. When it
Mhm.
comes to forgiveness, I think it depends on where the person is, where that
Mm.
person's awareness is at, if that person has a relationship with their ego, how far they're willing to go to learn the lesson, if they can learn it in private or with the person. There's a lot of nuance when we talk about forgiveness in relationships. For this guy, I mean, I can't give them any advice because I'm on the outside looking in, but if they were willing to come back to get back together and work it out, it feels like they have an uphill battle because who's to say he's not going
Yeah.
to continue to feel insecure in this connection with her. And for anybody else who's listening, because I feel like people who are going to listen to this are going to feel triggered, like that happened to me, or like I was cheated on and
Mhm.
like I'm dealing with these things. Listen, I know that story very well as well. I've been through many relationships where I've been cheated on, got back with the person, dumped the person, had to deal with forgiveness in some type of way. At the end of the day, forgiveness has to do with yourself, more with
Mhm.
yourself and less about the other person. Forgiveness is
Mm.
about releasing yourself from the situation, from the connection, releasing your mind and your mental hold on what happened and the hurt that happened, and more so making that pain useful to you. How can you make that pain
Mhm.
into power? So I wish
Mm.
them all the best, whoever these people are, that they're able to like build forward from this and cultivate a relationship built on trust and understanding and love and truth, because that
Mhm.
just sounds absolutely nuts. That sounds crazy.
It is nuts. No, it's totally nuts. I mean, if I have to be 1000% honest here and keep it all the way raw, that would have been a done deal for me. Like, no,
Oh yeah.
you have bad intentions. Like, I'm walking away, right?
Right.
And I would have been that person to not even think twice about how I felt. I would have been destroyed. He would not have seen me
Yeah.
cry. I would have cried in the shower.
Yeah.
But like, the whole 9 yards. But looking at it from the outside, it's kind of like, I mean, damn, I kind of let me really try and put myself in his shoes.
Right.
Not what Daisy would do, but what would Daisy, Misty do being him? considering
Right.
everything he's already experienced, what he's lived with her, and all that good stuff. Because I would agree, the forgiveness piece is definitely one thing. And then it's like, well, you're choosing to move forward. So now it's the trust
Mm,
component. It's that piece,
exactly.
right? It's like, how do I trust that every single step we take from this day forward, the intention is going to be genuine? It's going to be
Exactly.
because you're really here. You're saying you didn't expect to fall in love with me. You are in love with me. But then how do I know it's still real moving forward? Right.
Exactly.
Um, and so, for Raw Mess of the Week, it is a little messy. So I had to mention it. But also, it definitely opens up a very much so deeper look into relationships. And I definitely wanted to bring that up here because I know your lens on relationships.
Yes.
And I do know for a fact that there's people who need to hear it, right?
Right.
So thank you for that. You heard it here, and you can hear it from her when you follow her. She thinks of relationships as assignments, and I love it because there is
Yes.
so much to learn from all sorts of relationships that we have day in and day out. And
Right.
that's what really my experience, to be quite honest, now forming part of your community and being part of the Melanie Santos, the circle, and so many of the workshops that you provide for us as community members. I've learned, no matter where my emotions are, and I allow myself to feel those emotions, I've learned to truly embrace every experience with every person that I have day in and day out, and truly learn from those things instead of making impulsive decisions or irrational decisions. I
Love
choose to
it.
sit there and really dive into journaling as a reflection. What did I learn from this? Like, where
Mm.
is Daisy before this piece, and where's Daisy now? And so I have you to thank for that, for sure.
Thank you.
So
That means
thank
like
you.
so I literally just got off of an Instagram live where we were talking about this
Mhm.
and diving into like what is relationships. This doesn't only mean relationships with people, but when we talk about relationships, it's literally anything and anyone that we're in relation to.
Mhm.
And I ended with like, don't dismiss a thing. See everything and everyone as an instrument in your healing journey and getting closer to your higher self. So to hear that means like I'm
Yes.
like smiling from ear to ear. That really means a
Yes.
lot to hear.
And for the record, let me just say this. I wasn't in that IG live because I was rushing home from work because there was something that happened. But I learned this, right?
That's
Because
how
I
I know
know
you're being real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You say this. This is part of what we learned from you. And it's helped me. And don't get me wrong, my emotions have been all over.
Mm,
Anxiety has been all over, like all that, right? But I'm still learning, and I'm able to still learn and take all of it in, and I've learned not to deal with it but to learn how to cope with it,
mm,
because life is going to throw me limes, lemons, oranges, apples, and
yep.
all sorts of other fruits, and I got to make the best fruit cocktail here as I
Yep.
can. It's as simple
Yep.
as that.
Yep.
We're gonna go into as raw as it gets, and this is where we get a little deeper with our guest. And I want to definitely open up with my little sentence: community is surely everything, and so is living in your raw truth.
Mm,
Your offerings are truly for la comunidad, your community, right? I
yes.
am part of that. And it's truly a blessing to be able to be part of that. But I want to shine light on Melanie's story and your purpose, right? How is it that it's one thing to get there, is another to continue sustaining it and living
Mm.
in your raw truth?
Right. It's definitely been a journey. When I think about my journey, which obviously I often have to do because yes, I am here servicing the community through, offerings that deal with mind, body, spirit wellness and deal with holistic health and spiritual guidance and all the things in between. But at the base of it, one of the pillars of my work is being the example. Is not just like making content and making videos about what you should do, but rather, hey, this is what I'm going through and this is what I've done to help myself. This is what I am going through with my depression. This is what I'm going through with my anxiety. This is what I'm going through as a parent, as a mom, even when I was working in corporate America. Like, this is how I'm balancing, my extracurriculars, my 9 to 5 with my 5 to 9. And not only has that been freeing for me personally, because I feel like not everybody's meant to be on the internet talking about hard things like you and I do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but it's been super freeing for me, and I think like everybody needs an outlet. So that's been that for me, but it's also
Mhm.
helped me connect with so many people that
Mhm.
are going through the same things as me, have no idea that people even go through that, which is sometimes even more special to me. Like, oh, great, I was able to shine a light on this thing that people go through, and this person had no idea. Great, now I'm giving you, this new perspective, this nuance to look at. But also, people, my favorite thing is just connecting with people that I've been able to help by just sharing my truth. Like, it never
Yeah.
gets old. I do a lot of interviews, and people always like ask me, like, what's the best part? Is it the gigs, and is it the like working with famous people, and is it like the I'm like,
Right.
yo, none of that shit matters to me. What literally matters to me, and I say this with all of my heart, is literally connecting with people. You know how
Yeah.
I get in the middle of like a virtual hangout where we're like talking, like I literally, like, I stumble over my words because I turn into like
Yeah.
such a big nerd, like a big goofball about
Yeah.
talking about stuff like this, talking about our
Yeah.
let's talk about our feelings. That hypes me up. So when it comes to
Yeah.
like my journey, it's been it's been special. Again, it's
Yeah.
been freeing. It's been hard when we talk about consistency. Sometimes it does get
Mhm.
hard. There's been years
Yeah.
at a time that I've dropped off and said, hey, I'll be back. And sometimes I'm back in 4 months, sometimes I'm back in 2 years, but like I came
Mhm.
back.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's hard, but somehow I've been navigating. Somehow I've created this community. Somehow I continue to sustain myself, and I have an income, and I'm able to do super special projects and sit with
Yeah.
beautiful people like yourself that are able to highlight me, my work, and important topics along the way. So thank you.
Yeah. I want to shine a little bit of light on something that you said because when I started the show, and I got no shame, I will hold myself accountable. I'm the first one to check me. I say that here all the time. I always had this thing about not missing a single week. I had this
Mm,
thing about it, right? One way or another, there would be a guest, and I was really good with it. Coming to my first year anniversary on the podcast, which was in 2021, and doing a live show. During my live show, I actually confessed and I admitted to those who attended and even those who tuned in virtually that I was 2.5 seconds away per my therapist to be evaluated and be given antidepressants. And I pushed a little bit on that because I have had a situation in my life where I became a little bit dependent on medications. And that
mm,
was when I was going through my divorce years ago. My son is now 15. This was around when he was 2. So I really pushed back on that. I wanted to really dive deeper into therapy as opposed to just resorting to medication because of that fear of what happened to me before, right? Not because there was any shame, because I've definitely shared on this platform and I've said it to everyone, I'm in therapy, I'm in therapy, and I'm in therapy. And that's that. That's what helps me, right? And months pass and then I realize certain things are affecting me now. And it's physically, I'm getting sick. I got really sick this past December. I got pneumonia and
wow.
I lost my voice. I could not be on a microphone no matter how much I tried. I was out for more than a month. For more than a
Wow.
month, I couldn't do it, right? And then you know, my community, my listenership knew this because I was able to figure out a way to communicate that, right? And to stay with some form of presence and communicate. But it was funny because one of my closest friends said, "What is wrong with you? You've never missed a single week. This isn't like you." And what I realized at the moment, that was her way of just saying, "Hey, are you okay?" Because
Mm,
me and my best friend, we do the tough love thing. But then I
mhm,
realized it was me. I held myself to a consistency standard where I wasn't
mm,
allowing myself to breathe. I wasn't giving myself the space and the energy that I've been talking about on this platform time and time again. I realized that my body was talking to me and I wasn't listening. And I realized that I had already set a certain expectation of me with my community and my listenership that when I couldn't show up because physically I really couldn't, I had pneumonia,
yeah.
that it was like, "Whoa, where did you go?" Right? And then I realized it was that I did that part. It was me who did that, and I didn't think about myself when I set that expectation because the reality is since then I have taken a week or 2 off. Since then I've given myself that opportunity to rest whether it's my voice, whether it's my mind from a creative standpoint, whether it is from my, like you said, my 5 to 9, because my 9 to 5 went a little bit
Yep.
over, right? I've learned to give myself and allow myself that moment, that day, that week, just to regroup and recharge and really take care of me. And I've been able to figure out a way to communicate that right on this platform to my listenership, that I played myself in thinking that consistency has to be showing up every single week. Yes, sure,
Mm,
no problem. But it doesn't necessarily have to be on this microphone. And it's
right.
about how I sustain my community and my listenership to know that maybe I'm not on this mic, but I'm still always there. And there's still
Mm,
something you can come back to, whether it is my very humbling ebook or it is my podcast, right? There's still something there for me to share with you, even if I have lost my voice. And I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to know how your comeback, if that's what we can call it, has
mhm.
been when you've given yourself that opportunity to regroup, to recharge, to heal, or to just step back for a little bit. How have you been able to come back, considering that you've had a strong community that has still been there
Yeah.
to see you come
Yeah.
back? How has that been for you?
First of all, thank you for sharing that. Like, I feel so seen by you sharing that. And it's also like such a testament of like going through the hard things, being able to
Yeah,
learn the lesson and being able to evolve through it. So
yeah.
proud to hear that from you. When it comes to consistency, it is without a doubt one of the major things that I struggle with. The reason why I talk so much about mental health and physical health and spirituality is because I battle with the same things. I'm a
Yeah.
neurodivergent human being. I deal with such crazy bouts of ADHD that I have to take time away. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes my depression in the past has been so bad that I have to, like you said, like I am incapable of showing up. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say that it's been easy.
Yeah.
I've been on the internet with the blog that evolved into this business since 2013. So it's been again a journey. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until like the last couple of years that I realized that being consistent has nothing to do with quantity or the amount of time that you spend doing something or the amount of posts that you post, and everything to do with being consistent in quality. And that's how I found that, or how I've made it okay for myself to flow in grace, so that I know when I step away, I've given my community everything that I've had.
Mm,
You know, I've
mm,
given people my word and my heart. I give them my time. You know, I really do hold space, and it's something that I enjoy, I truly love, and I really pride myself on, so that I know that when I step away, I make sure that folks are taken care of, like whether it is like an Instagram post, here it is, like I did it last June when everything was happening with Black Lives Matter, and just it was just
mm,
too much, the pandemic, and back in 2020 it was just too much, and I'm like, I need to go away because my mental health is not good. Here's a post with 10 slides, and each slide is going to inform you on a place that you can find whatever it is that you need from me. Bye. See you.
yeah.
See you after the summer's
Yeah.
over. Like whether it's
Yeah.
something like that, or like you said, just finding a way for you to inform your people. I'm going to be gone. I'm good. Here is where you can find me, or what you would normally get from me, or here's where you could find similar resources or offerings from other people, because I think it's also important to like, let's loop everybody else in, so that people
Yeah.
can still stay service, and they can still be held. But like, I realized along the way, and I think it's something that I'm definitely still learning, is that I can't hold people unless I hold myself. And I know that's really corny
Mm.
and cliche, but like, we can't.
No, it's
You
not.
can't be on a
Mm,
mic being raw and like doing all
I
this if you're
can't.
not getting raw with yourself, right? I can't,
Yeah.
be helping people remember who the fuck they are if I'm not doing it for myself too. So it's really been about learning that lesson of like what consistency really is. Really driving down on being consistent in quality and making sure that I can get that time away. Super, super
Mm,
important.
absolutely. One more thing I want to throw in there with the journey. You started this blog in 2013. It's 2021. And throughout
2013.
this journey, there's been marriage and there's
Mm.
been motherhood, right? So wifehood and motherhood. And listen, we see what we see. You share. And and
Yeah.
and I have to say I do feel like you keep it raw, because here's the thing, people,
Thank
like,
you.
I've seen her in action in person as a wife and a mother.
She has actually seen me as a wife
Right.
and mother.
And like this is really who she is, right? And but for me, like, now that your daughter is getting older, like I know your husband definitely supports, right? And you guys have such a beautiful and strong partnership.
Thank you.
But now that your daughter's also like school age and she's like understanding more and more, and I see she taps into it too. How has that journey been for you? Because I know what it is to have a person looking up at me and saying, just quit your job, mom, and just do this
Right.
thing like full throttle. Like I know what that's like, but how is it for you? Because she's still so young and she's
Right.
growing with you.
Yeah. It's definitely, I will tell you this. Becoming pregnant and having my daughter changed the game for me. And I think many moms, if not all moms, can say the same for good and for bad reasons. But like, it has changed the game for me. If it wasn't for me giving birth, taking maternity leave, realizing all I could do when I wasn't behind a desk, or just seeing what the truth of my calling was, I wouldn't be here. I just would not be here. She is, and my husband too. They're such driving forces in my life, and in what I'm here to do. They are for sure, without a doubt, huge parts of my soul mission here. I know that we came together as a soul family. I'm bringing all these like spiritual terms in, but like when I say soul family, I know that we've traveled through different lifetimes together to make happen whatever we're about to make happen. I
Hmm.
don't know what this little girl is about to do. I mean, you've met her in person. She's just an astonishing human being.
She really is. She is.
Sometimes I'm like, how do we even make you? Like,
Mm.
where did you even come from? We know she's gonna do crazy, crazy things in the world, so that helps us. Like, it keeps us on our toes. And I think again, like you probably feel the same way about your kid, but like definitely keeps me going. She's definitely a big part of that consistency, um, keeping it going, keeping the quality high, making sure that I am out here in the community helping people that need it, because she's the littlest person in my life and the person that needs me the most. Um, yeah, she's like everything. Motherhood has changed the game. Yeah. Even when you mentioned like the timing of it all, like starting out in 2020 and in 2013 and it's 2022, like I didn't even factor in like that's a long
Oh
time.
my God. Leave it to me to do this, because I do things like this. Leave it to me. But I mean, it's kind of like, again, it's that person that I am, like looking at it from the outside, right?
Yeah.
Because like I said, I've seen from the inside, like sitting right next to you, I've seen it. I've seen it, and it's been, even if it has been an event here and there, it's been beautiful to see that. Like literally, she went from this to like this whole person, and she's
This
like such a
whole
doll,
person.
right? And it's like, but because I know who her parents are, like as people, like not just, oh, someone I follow on social media. Like,
Right.
first of all, like for you to say, like, how did we made you? Oh, I could see how y'all made her. Like, she's just like the
She's
perfect
something.
like combination. Like here, like she really is. But it's also the concept of just seeing it from the outside to really witness this part of your journey, right? And to just see how she is just so in love with it. Like she loves her mom, and you can tell, but she
She
also
does.
wholeheartedly believes in what her mom does. And I
Yeah.
think, when you said, I do have, he's 15, but I noticed like now today, and he's 15, like where have all these 15 years gone by? I don't know. But now I
Mm,
realize, I joined this challenge, and it's with the same person. I did a 7-day self-care challenge about 3 weeks ago, and I joined the 7-day mindfulness challenge with her. And it's a free, challenge that she does. She's just part of her community. And one of the things she does, she reminds us to write 3 things that I'm thankful for. And one of the things I wrote was that I am witnessing a 15-year-old young man who
mm,
has just surprised me so much and who he is as self-disciplined, self-driven, and self-determined, like on his own. And the reason why I wrote that down is because I said to him, you know, i- it's not that you surprised me because I doubted you. It's just it surprises me that you are part of me and this is who you are. And the consensus was from him, and apparently this conversation happened with like his father and like his family, and like, my family when I'm not here, it's like, well, I get that from you.
I was just gonna say that, like, our kids are mirrors of us. They're tiny mirrors.
And it's
So
like,
that all of that you're seeing in him is like, hello, are you seeing this on your in yourself too? Because when we're here, like battling with the consistency and like, oh my God, I have to step away from the
here we
mic and like
go.
all these work and all these crazy things, like here are kids doing the best
Yeah.
that they can, and we're like, wow, you're doing such a great job. It's
Yeah.
really us needing to say that to
Yeah.
ourselves.
And that's what it is. It's like for a second, I'm like, I'm going to commit to do better to capture these little moments because I don't want that because I need to sit out for a moment from being on the microphone to regroup and recharge that
Mm,
I'm also not reconnecting with him. That I need to remember that that's part of my regrouping and recharging, right?
yeah.
It's the motherhood piece of it too. You know, I don't want to be that parent. This is a raw moment here, right? When we're talking about journey, right?
Mm,
Because like I said, Ava's so little and here he is 15. I'm like, oh, he's independent.
yeah.
I can't forget that I'm still his mama. He still
Exactly.
needs me. You know, I still need to be connected to this part of his journey that essentially is part of mine.
Yep.
So I wanted to shine
Mhm.
light on that, on the balancing act of the
Love
motherhood
that.
and the wifehood too. We're gonna lead into the double or nothing, and this is where we, you know, put another dose on it on who our guest is and what we have in offering. And we're gonna touch base on a little deeper with the spirituality and the healing. You definitely speak very strongly on mental health on a very personal note, and of course with your community as well. Um, I want to shine a little bit of light of what happens when we are facing the unexpected, when life is just life and it happens, right? And how spirituality plays a part in that, in the healing aspect of it all, right? We wake up every day, thank God, thank the universe, and it's great, right? And so we would love to think, hey, today's going to be a good day, and then life happens, and that could be from
Right.
something so small to probably the most largest event in our life that could just switch it up for us and flip a script. I want to know, how does that look for you when it comes to healing? How that has been as part of your journey, and what that has done for you in being able to teach and to share those offerings with your community.
Mm. What hasn't it done for me? It's taught me the true meaning of surrender, which is a huge buzzword right now, and on the internet in general. I was gonna say in the spiritual community, but just on the internet in general. Surrender,
Mhm.
surrender, surrender. What does that even mean? You know, it's really taught me the meaning of surrender. Surrender has something
Mhm.
to do with giving up and everything to do with being again in communion and in harmony with the unknown. You know, I
Mhm.
always say, like, God, the universe, Allah, Jesus, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
your it. I'm not here to, I have clients in community of all different kinds and faiths and walks of life.
Mhm.
Uh, whatever you want to call your it, but just be in conversation. Be in conversation with yourself, with your conflicts, with your, I always joke about like love and light, like love and light, because my
Mhm.
community is like everything other than that. I mean, we do focus on it, but like we're so much more about the shadow work.
Mm.
But be in communion with yourself, be willing to dive into your light, be willing to dive into your darkness,
Mhm.
uh, knowing that and learning that has made me a better person inevitably and made me such a better teacher. I think ooh, I think I'm about to get real raw in here, but one of the things that I dislike the most, and I see it a lot being again amongst other spiritual teachers and spiritual leaders, are the people who act and carry themselves like they're holier than thou,
Mm.
right? Let's
Mm.
talk about healing because I've done it. Like, no, sis.
Mhm.
No, brother, like you are not done, and neither am I, neither is he and she and they and whoever. Like, we are not done here. And I
Mhm.
cannot, like, this is a journey. I would be very weary of the people who stand in front of you, like, oh, do this because it's true and it's the end all be
Right.
all. And like, this is what spirituality is. Absolutely not. I think we all have to, and I think myself, you, everybody, I think we're
Mhm.
all spiritual teachers. Everybody's here as a teacher at best. Shout out to Maya Angelou. This is my favorite quote of
Mm.
hers. At best, we are all teachers. We are all teachers. We are all instruments in each other's lives. We're all here in connection and in relationships, in assignment with each other. Um, and we have to be willing to, again, teach the lessons, have these conversations, but let people have their own experience. And
Mhm.
so, me being able to dive into my light, into my darkness, share the bits and pieces that I can, digest it for myself first. Because again,
Mhm.
have to take the time away, step away, give myself what I need, carry myself in as much grace as possible, and then come back. It's almost like I feel sometimes like Moses going into the desert. This is where my Catholic schoolgirl stuff starts to come out. Went to Catholic school for like most of my life. I go out into the desert and come and bring back the 10 commandments or
Mhm.
this jug of water or whatever. Like, here's what I found on my travels. And
Yep.
people are always like, Melanie, like, I'm like, don't, I'm not your savior. I'm just the messenger. Like, I say it all the time. It's because I think it's so important. And I really wish, and I know, again, not everybody's built for this. Not everybody's built to be like, it's not that I'm telling my business because I am also a very private person, but it's more
Mhm.
so like, here's what I learned. And it's so
Mhm.
exciting because it changed my life in X, Y, and Z way. Here, I even do it when it comes to my alignment sessions. One of my offerings is alignment sessions, where I offer, I'm also a psychic medium, where I offer these like hour and a half long sessions, and I'm sitting with people and I'm combing through their energies and explaining things to them as their chakras, and telling them like, this
Mhm.
is what's going on in your life, and this is the energy that's popping up, and this is how it can be useful to you on your journey. And they're just, I say it humbly, incredible sessions. One, because
Mhm.
again, I'm able to connect with people one on one, and it's just such a joy. Like I absolutely love it. But also just so educational. It's so crazy when I see like 3 or 4 clients in a week, and each and every person is going through something similar. So
Mm.
something that I
Mm.
do often is go on Instagram or TikTok or wherever and be like, hey, again, here I am coming back from the desert. Here are my findings
The
for the
whole
week.
thing.
Yes, like here's what I found. Here's what's useful to you, because
Mhm.
so many people are confused about how
Yeah.
to go again about this journey, about this spiritual journey, how to mesh the human experience with the spiritual experience. What does it all mean? Is there a delineation? Is it meant to be together? Is this okay if
Mm.
I do this and I do this too? It's so misconstrued, so misunderstood. And again, I'm
Yep.
not saying that I know it all, but I am willing to be a pioneer in the way that I am talking about it all. I love that you introduced the show saying, I don't have a niche. I'm gonna talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about, when I want to talk about, because
Yep.
I'm the same exact way. I'm a Gemini. I have to be
Mhm.
that way. Otherwise I will explode. Um,
Yes.
but I'm the same way, especially when it comes to living your life. Like I can't talk to you about crystals and chakras and energy and spirituality and prayer and meditation if I can't talk to you about my favorite face wash and how
Mm.
my favorite pillow and my head wrap and this thing that I do for self-care that really is changing my life too. Like everything goes hand in hand, and we have to be willing to see everything and everyone to bring it full circle, as an instrument in our healing and in our journey.
Absolutely. And this is why, let me just say this. It was a very intense decision, right? When I embarked on this journey with the podcasting. And shout out to my podcast coach, Carla Ramirez, because she was definitely on the show, the most recent episode. And she definitely would shine light on the niche component. But when I
Mm,
presented this one to her, when I because when you think of podcasts, you definitely want, hey, you're an expert in this, like,
right,
book reviews or something. You could have a podcast on book reviews, which is great
right.
because I would go to a podcast about book reviews, especially if it's niched out to a specific type of a genre book, right? A specific category, anything like that, right? But when I presented this to her, she totally fucked with this idea. She was just
Mm,
like, "Well, you don't have to niche it out. Like your niche is that you are a Latina woman in your 30s, mid 30s, and you want to keep it all the way raw. You're bringing different topics of conversation relevant to people of your age, alike you, whether it's in career, whether it's in creativity, or what have you." And she was very open to this idea, and I want to believe that it's because I truly believed in it as well, that it wasn't
mm,
just something that I just wanted to start just to start.
yeah.
I My purpose in this was because for quite some time I was being silenced. Um in a space where I should not have felt that way or should not have been in that situation, right? And lo and behold, how many years later, here I am possibly feeling that same way once again. But you know what? The feeling is different now. And you want to know
Mm,
why? Because back then I didn't have a microphone and I didn't create a
mm,
platform when I can feel free enough to discuss what I want to discuss and shine light on the things that I want to shine light on today. Yes, sir, ma'am, maybe you might try to silence me. But what
mm,
I've learned pre microphone to now post microphone is that taking all the signs in. I'm taking notes. I'm jotting down what I need to jot down because I may not speak today. I speak every day on a microphone, every week, have you, maybe every month, but I will have my voice heard eventually at some point. I strategize now, just like I strategize when I come on this microphone. I strategize now when I have to come back to the table and say X, Y, and Z to all your questions, to what you said to me, to that moment that you told me, and you shut me up. There is a different Daisy today. There's a different Misty, but that was the purpose to this platform where I no longer needed to feel like I had no choice but to stay silent. And that was the purpose to why I did not want a niched out podcast. I wanted to be able to have a voice for myself and give a voice for others that do have great things to bring to the table and to talk about,
love it.
without anybody criticizing or placing judgments or saying, oh, please, shut up. I can't listen. If there's one thing that is a pet peeve to me, is when somebody just turns around and tells you to shut up. I
Mm.
cannot stand it.
It's the
It's just not
ultimate
my thing.
disrespect. Yeah.
It's just so disrespectful. And like it's just not my thing. So thank you for even recognizing that, because
Yeah.
that was definitely part of what my purpose has been here. Um one more thing when it comes to healing, right? There's one thing that you definitely speak on that I love so much that you have, and I will never forget. I believe it was an IG live that you did with your mom. And
Mm, one of
this
my
is years
faves.
ago. One of my faves too. But you definitely have been someone who has voiced out plenty on what healing looks like when we are destigmatizing a lot of childhood,
Mhm.
you know, common core concepts that we're just not supposed to speak on. Um how has that been for you? I know healing is continuous, right? That journey is never ending, but how has that been for you since then to today to now, when we're healing with what our childhood once was and how we still heal throughout our adult years?
Hard.
Mm,
Very,
yeah, yeah,
very hard. Like to this
yeah.
day, I'm dealing with, I mean, I think for the rest of our lives, we'll be dealing with deconditioning ourselves of
Mm-hmm.
the ways that we've been conditioned growing up. It's
Yeah.
actually, since I mentioned these alignment sessions, one of my favorite things to look at inside people's, because it lives, I'm looking in the body, I'm looking in your energy, I'm looking in your
Mm-hmm.
chakras and your energy sensors. One of my favorite things to look at is people's throats and people's solar plexus. Let's look at your self worth and how it was impacted. And people are like, what do you mean? And then I start to get into, well, the reason why, your solar plexus, which is, the space of self worth, self confidence, self esteem, is so
Mm-hmm.
impacted is because it's impacted when you were a child. And I kid you not, for all of my all the black and brown listeners that are listening right now, the clients who are my black and brown clients are usually have the most impacted solar plexus, the most impacted
Mm,
self-worth, the most impacted self-confidence, because not only am I looking at conditioning that comes from our immediate family, but conditioning that comes from ancestry, and
mm,
people don't even factor that. So when you ask the question of like, how has it been? I'm like, well, I feel like, again, Moses, the chosen one, like, here you go, Melanie. Like, here's this new and refreshed consciousness. Here's all this stuff for you to unravel, years and years and years. And not only that, but then we have lifetimes, because again, you're
mm-hmm.
Daisy in this lifetime and I'm Melanie in this lifetime, but we could have been John Smith and Jane Doe in, how many
Mm-hmm.
other lifetimes that our soul has been incarnate in
Yeah.
other bodies. So we have like all of this work to go through, all of this deconditioning to do, all of these mindsets and belief systems to comb through and decipher, is this my truth? So
Mm,
love that
mm,
you brought up, this conversation with my mom. um I don't usually share this story, but I will share it now to share like how far we've come. When I started
mm,
my blog in 2013, I started off nicheless, right? I didn't have a niche. I knew that I wanted to talk about all the things that, I was going through as a 23-year-old at the time, from my favorite shoes to my favorite song to the concert I was going through to, oh, hey, I just got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and clinical depression. Here's how I'm dealing with that without medication, right? And the first time that I ever wrote a written piece, it was for a Spanglish Dominican literary magazine, and it was in Spanglish, and it, shared a lot of like why I suffered. And a lot of it was because of my family dynamic and, growing up in a Cuban Dominican household, and the way that I was treated was different than the way that my sibling was treated. And, just also witnessing the way that women were just treated differently in Caribbean homes than the men were treated, and just all these things that people were just starting to talk about. I like busted it wide open and just like wrote this piece. And I remember
Yeah.
showing it to my mom. And I think she slapped me, to be honest. Shout out to mommy, I love you. But
Shout out.
I think she slapped me. She was like, "Yo, how dare you like put our business out there? Like, how dare you? Like, we did the best we can." And I think during that time, I was getting a little bit more like cojones to like write about this, because I just started therapy for the first time ever. Like, I was finally like getting a hold on my treatment, what I needed. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing this. I wonder how many people are not and need to hear this from someone like me. So I started to write about this. My parents were not with it. They were not with it, did not understand why I would talk about this stuff out in the open, what the purpose of talking about purpose was, what the purpose of talking about personal
Yeah.
journey was, because all of that was always meant to be calladito. That's like us talking about our problems and our mental health and our money and that's no, absolutely not. That is totally a no, no, no. And us even fighting about it, like us even having a discussion about it, that's white people shit. Like, we are not
Yeah.
meant to do this.
Yep.
Right? So here I am, like, quote unquote, being rebellious. And I'm like, I'm not being rebellious. I'm just trying to be a normal person. Like, here I am coming into this like understanding of like, oh, I have a human experience and this is what it's like. And I need to take care of it in a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been a journey.
Yeah.
I say that to say, now in 2022, my parents, I really don't know where I would be without them, without their support.
Yes.
They've been at almost every single event that I've ever done, listened to every single podcast, listened to like read everything that I've written, like been to like my mom. I remember my first like big like moderating conversation that I had on stage. She was right by my side. Like, they grew to I don't want to say understand, because I think there are some parts of our lives where we're just never gonna I'm just never gonna be understood at 100%,
Yeah.
because we come from um different lifetimes, but they're okay with me being here and them being there. And I know that that's unique to me and to my experience, and so many people wish they had that. What I will say is this: have grace with your parents, caretakers, upbringing, community. People at the end of the day are doing the best that they can. I will never forget that. Like, even when my mom like smacking me and being like, muchacha, like, why are you doing this? I would never forget her telling me that, and constantly telling me that whenever I would complain, like, and this is something that a lot of people do, like, oh, I'm messed up because of my parents. No. Yes and no. Like, sure, but also also
No.
have yeah,
Also.
like, also yes, and also, like, again, nuances, guys,
Yeah.
like, have grace. Like, that has helped me and her and him so, and just my extended family, just like so fucking much, is having grace and knowing that we come from different lifetimes, we come from different understandings, we have different mindsets, we also have different resources. I was able to like, you know, go through this debilitating experience, go to therapy, have the resources to do that. They did not. They didn't. And even when they didn't understand that it was something that they could do, didn't have the personal permission or the ancestral permission, if you will, to like go and do something to help themselves. So when we say that we are rewriting patterns, baby, we are really like the script writers of our generation. So please have grace with yourself, but also have grace with your people, because people will only do as good as they know. And sometimes that good isn't great. And sometimes you will know better, but you cannot persecute people for what they do not know. So that
Oh,
has really helped. us so much. And we know that, like, if we ever get to a place where we're just like bumping ends or bumping heads, I'm just like, listen, I'm here, y tú tá aquí. Let's meet in the middle,
Mhm.
because I know you're not going to be able to be in my place, and I know I'm not going to be able to be in your place. And just having those open,
Mhm.
raw, if you will, conversations have helped,
Yeah.
oh, so much, so much.
It's so funny because I wanted the reason why I asked that was because I wanted, and I'm getting teary eyed. Oh my God. I wanted to shine light on that. I will never forget, for the record, how long ago was that IG live you did with your mom?
I
Because
think it
that
was
was,
last year. I think it was last summer or either,
yeah,
either last summer or 2 summers ago,
probably
something
like
like
two
that.
summers. And that one still stays with me. I think it was through that IG live that I realized that I was holding a lot of things holding my parents to a lot of things. And let me
Mm,
say this, I have four children and all four of us have four different experiences, okay?
yep.
The way I see things is different from the way my brothers see things and the way my sisters see things, and that's fine. The parents that the two older ones got are very different from the parents that the two younger ones got, right? Because they grew
Yep.
up, they made
Yeah.
certain changes, right? Um but it's ever since that IG live that I realized I'm not going to be able to change my mom. I'm not going to be able to change my dad. There's so much I still disagree with when it comes to them. Their actions, maybe even their decisions, right? And that's not to take away all that they've done for me, and certainly not to take away the amazing grandparents that they are to my
Yeah.
son. Let me just say that, right? But I've learned just from that IG live that what I can change is the way I approach the conversation.
There you go.
The way I'm having these conversations with them. Being able that the same way I can sit there and say, "Hey mom and dad, this is what you guys did and this is how I took it," is the same way I can admit
Yeah.
to certain things that I was at fault. I've learned to communicate that. That takes time because if anybody knows me, if you know how I am, I'm stubborn. I'm a Scorpio and I am stubborn and I'm always right
Mm,
and everybody's always wrong. And that's just me, right? But it's taken a lot of work for me to learn how to have those conversations with my parents so that things don't just get heightened, right? Because how
yeah.
dare I, sacarle en cara, right? Throw
Yep.
these things in my parents' face, like of something that I saw growing up with my other older sibling, or something that I went through. Like, who do I think I am? They gave me life. They put a
Right.
roof over my head, like all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we've come so far to be able to sit there and I could sit there and say, Mami, escúchame, just listen for a second. I speak and then you're going to speak and then I'm going to hear you. Because if we're talking over each other, we're not going to listen. You
Exactly.
know, we have to be able to take accountability and behold ourselves accountable and take responsibility for where we probably could have done things different if they weren't necessarily wrong. Because who am I to judge that it was wrong? But maybe we
Mm-hmm.
could have done it different. And I wanted to bring that up when it comes to childhood and destigmatizing so much. When it comes to the conversations you hold because of that IG live, because that IG live has helped me look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, maybe it is the way I'm speaking to my mom and my dad. Maybe it is how I'm holding these type of conversations. Maybe it is how I'm trying to get their attention when their emotions get the best of them, right? Because all my parents see very transparently, and this platform knows it is they came here as immigrants and they've
Mm-hmm.
given me everything,
Yeah.
and I just should not say anything. And so shout out to your mom and to your dad for where
Thank
that
you.
journey comes in, because your girl Daisy also got slapped a few times, y'all. I can't on Marshall Parkway, y'all, right outside the
Oh,
high school. I can't
girl.
even tell you how many in front of everybody. Like, I have gotten slapped too. Listen, that just comes with it. This show knows about La Chato, my mother, and her hands. They know about her
Oh,
hands. I've
Lord.
described her hands that have met my face several times back in the day, but definitely La Chato hands are like legends here.
Oh, my
But
gosh.
yeah, definitely. But I will say shout out to them and shout out to my parents, because you know what? We have to give that recognition of where we have
Yeah.
seen some form of evolution, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to the relationship with us. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of what our individual purposes are, right? How dare I be able to come on this microphone and keep it all the way raw and know how to speak to my listenership, but then I don't know how to talk to my parents about raw shit.
Exactly.
Nah, who the hell do I think I am? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it got to that point. It got to that point for me. And so again, that was the purpose to bringing up that IG live, because it's definitely helped me to definitely reflect a little bit and to be like, I got to start thinking. I have to start reassessing. I have to really think about the things that, at the end of the day, the truth does hurt. That's the truth. It hurts. When we keep it raw, it takes a lot of balls to keep it raw, but then it
Yeah.
takes even bigger balls to face how hurtful that truth and keeping it raw really is,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
from all sides. So thank you for that. We're gonna go into the third and last segment of the show, which is the overdose. And here we share a little something that we are completely overjoyed with or completely over it. And it could be absolutely anything. I mean, from the biggest thing to the smallest thing. So, Melanie, would you like to go first?
Um, Overjoyed
Mm.
or over it? What am I
Or
over?
both?
Or both? This is kind of like what we do in our community, the dump and highlight for
Yeah.
office hours. I'm like, what do I want to dump and what do I want to highlight?
Hmm.
Overjoyed. I just celebrated a 33rd birthday and I
Mm.
am overjoyed. I'm gonna give a shout out to me. Shout out to me. I think about that Snoop
Yes.
Dogg post. Shout
Yeah.
out to me for all the hard work. No, it really
Hmm.
has been, I was gonna say a year, but it's really been 3 years for me of intense just life happening,
Hmm.
dealing with severe depression, anxiety, still somehow being on here, making it happen, taking little breaks, but also coming back because, hello,
Hmm.
consistency,
Hmm.
losing one of the most important people in my life, dealing with grief. It's just been crazy to say the least.
Hmm.
And I always knew that, being a psychic, hello, for myself, I've always knew that 33 was going to be special. I always knew
Hmm.
that when I reached this point in my life, I was going to have a lot to celebrate. But when you're in the thick of it, right? And
Hmm.
you're like, for context, like laying on the bathroom floor, like not even having an ounce of energy or an ounce of clarity as to how to get up and move on. Like, how can I even think about a
Hmm.
birthday or like a year being special or me being
Hmm.
in good graces and in good light when I'm here? So, being able to be on the other side of this and witness myself differently, because we witness other people and people witness us, but we also have to bear witness to ourselves,
Oof.
be able to
Yes.
witness myself in my strengths, in my power, in the ways that I have set boundaries this year, in the ways that I have
Hmm.
learned and grown through adversity, in the ways that I have, yo, this shout out's getting long, but
It's okay. No,
but sh-
go,
but
roll it
shout out
out.
to me. Yeah, it's just been, I really am overjoyed at being on the other side. And I
Mm.
hope that whoever's listening to this and needs to hear that knows that there is another side. There is,
Mm.
there is, I like to now, and I was just talking about this with our community, but look at the deepest, darkest parts of our life as contrast. That if you're deep
Mm.
and you're dark and you're in the pits, that must mean that there's another side of this that is the complete opposite. That while there is pain, pain only affirms that we can heal through it. So I'm really overjoyed at, oh, I'm getting emotional now, but like really overjoyed
I am
at
too. I'm getting so teary eyed right now.
it's just been crazy. I'm really overjoyed at being on the other side. I did not at some point, trigger warnings to anybody, but like did not at some point think I would make it to see 2022.
Mm.
And here I am, well into it, talking with Miss D, keeping it raw,
Ay.
like, and
I'm
I
still
just
getting
really
teary eyed.
am. Yeah, like it really is. We have to celebrate ourselves. I think I also just
Yeah.
spent so much of my life. One of the ways that I was conditioned as a child, like no te celebre tanto. Like don't celebrate
Mm.
yourself too much. Don't celebrate yourself out in the open because you're gonna make people wonder. And then when people start
Mm.
wondering, they'll start poking into your business. When they start poking into
Mm.
your business, that's how you get mal de ojo. And you get people, and I'm just like, yo,
Yeah.
I had to divorce myself from that a couple of years ago and just be like, I am going to celebrate myself. It's
Yeah.
not only something that I want to do, but an actual survival tactic in like this crazy society. And
Yeah.
I need it to survive. So celebrate yourself. Something that I'm overjoyed with is me, my journey, the way that I've stuck by it, surrendered through it all, learned the lessons, been able to go through hell and back, and we here,
Mm.
baby. That's where I'm at right
Yes.
now.
Oh, I love it. I just want to say that my overjoyment is exactly this episode today.
Oh.
I did share this with Mel before we started this. And I'll feel comfortable enough without disclosing too much because when the time is right, y'all know I keep it raw and I will share. But today was definitely by far a very tough day, a very hard day to deal with. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And you know, what I once thought would be such a great shift is resulting to be such an assignment. Let me tell you,
Mm,
it's been an assignment.
mm,
But one of the things that with just 30 minutes arriving home and then speaking, and I feel comfortable saying this, speaking with someone that I'm on a daily close to, you know, um, that person said, "Well, what are you gonna go do?" Because I was totally crying on the cab ride home. I was
mm,
crying. I was letting it out because I'm like, this is not ruining this episode, right? And I happened to say, "Well, I'm recording with Melanie, and she knows who you are." And she said, "Oh my God, like this is just so meant to be in such an alignment." And it is. It is because I have to trust that that conversation that I had today needed to happen today. I
mm,
had to trust that it needed to happen today, and all those emotions and all the notes that I took mentally during that conversation needed to happen today because of what this episode has just been for me. Because if you're paying attention to this assignment, if you were paying attention, taking notes, you know Melanie just served several offerings because all
thank you.
throughout these questions, I've captured so much note taking in my mind that I know I need to be able to look back on it, think about it, and say, oh, you know what this is now? This is a contrast. And that's the answer that I needed today because
I love it.
I literally sat there as I was getting ready to come home and I said, why is this happening?
Mm,
Why is this happening like this? This is not something that could possibly be this horrible. Like
mm,
how? Like this cannot be. This is not healthy. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not mentally, not physically. Like why? And you know what? Lo and behold, you just gave me that lesson, that note taking that I needed. Oh, Daisy, it's a contrast.
mm,
Let me sit with this. Let me think about this. Let me go back to all the note taking I've done. Let me pay a closer look. Let me pay closer attention to what I already know. And let me make sure I'm taking in these lessons even deeper into my soul and my mind. So I don't miss anything. I don't skip a beat on this. And I take it all in for what it is and I embrace it because you know what this is? This is last year was a transition. This is now a contrast.
mm.
And I need to be able to receive this and welcome it and embrace it for what it is. And that's
Preach.
what
What a
my
testimony.
yes, and that's what my overjoy is today. It is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
I'm so grateful to be the littlest bit of a part of that. Thank you
oh
so
my
much
god,
for
you have
having
no
me.
idea. Like the fact that it's like, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go talk to Melanie. That was like the solution. That was I'm gonna talk to Melanie. Oh my god, I'm probably gonna cry. So I got teary eyed, but
No.
it's all good. Well, we've come to the closing of this episode. But Mel, would you please be so kind to tell my listeners where they could follow you very closely? Um, because I definitely want them to. For the record, and I want to shine light on this because you mentioned it. One of the things I would really love for anyone who needs it for the purpose of how to cope and heal with through grieving, please go follow Melanie. That is definitely one raw moment you shared, but I wanted to be extremely, extremely um, kind to that space of your journey and not dig so deep into that because I know that was something extremely personal for you
Yeah.
and I do feel that you have shared so much on that that anyone can go see who needs any type of help of what that looks like through the lens of grieving. So if you could please tell
Thank
the
you.
listenership where they could go follow you.
Yes, I would love to have and to be in community with all of you. You can find me. My website is melaniesantos.co.co. That is also my Instagram page. That is also my TikTok. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, all the things. YouTube, Melanie Santos,
Mhm.
youtube.com/Melanie Santos. All my videos are there. Live conversations. The conversation that you talked about with my mom is on my Instagram as well. I would love to hear any thoughts, feedback, anything that connected with anybody who watches it. It's like my favorite thing is to continue to have these conversations and to get to new perspectives, to hear people's perspectives, their nuances. Yeah, find me there.
Yes. And as always, you guys know I put all the links in the show notes. So make sure you
Yes.
check that out. And thank you, Melanie, for joining me on this
Thank you.
platform and
Thank you.
offering all this word that you did today. It's truly been part of my journey as well. So I appreciate that. And I thank you for doing what you do for us. Um, and I'm gonna like stop getting choked up because I'm getting choked up again. But as always, guys, this has been another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. I am your host, Misty, and you guys will tune in next week. Bye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we are live on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Make sure to tell a friend to subscribe, rate, and review. Talk to you later. Bye.